Have you ever noticed that your capacity to handle life is not consistent? There are days when you are present, flexible, resilient. When a difficult conversation is just a difficult conversation. When a frustration at work is an inconvenience rather than a catastrophe. When you can feel something hard without being consumed by it, can sit with discomfort and still think, still connect, still function. And then there are the other days, when the same level of difficulty produces something entirely different. When a look from a colleague floods you with shame that takes hours to clear. When a minor conflict with someone you love sends you into a place of rage or despair that feels completely disproportionate to what actually happened. When you can't access your own emotions at all, when someone asks you how you feel and the honest answer is that you genuinely don't know, that something has gone flat and numb and unreachable. What is the difference between those days? What is the variable that determines whether you are capable of navigating your emotional life or whether you are at its mercy? The answer, at least a very significant part of it, is your window of tolerance. And understanding this concept is one of the most genuinely useful things you can do for your relationship with your own nervous system, your emotional regulation, and your capacity to heal from whatever experiences have narrowed that window in the first place. The worksheet covering everything in this video is in the description. Let's build the full picture. Section 1. What the window of tolerance actually is. The window of tolerance is a concept developed by psychiatrist and clinical professor Dr. Daniel Siegel, one of the leading figures in interpersonal neurobiology and the author of foundational work on the developing mind, attachment, and brain integration. He introduced the concept in his 1999 book, The Developing Mind, and it has since become one of the most widely used frameworks in trauma-informed therapy, somatic psychology, and neuroscience, informed clinical practice. The window of tolerance describes the optimal zone of nervous system arousal, the range of activation within which a person can function most effectively, thinking clearly, feeling emotions without being overwhelmed by them, staying present in their body and in relationships, accessing both cognition and emotion simultaneously. Inside the window, the person has what is sometimes called dual awareness. They can experience something difficult, while also maintaining the observing part of themselves that knows I am having this experience and I can navigate it. The window is bounded on two sides. Above the upper boundary is the zone of hyperarousal, where activation has exceeded the window's capacity and the person is flooded, reactive, and overwhelmed. Below the lower boundary is the zone of hypoarousal, where activation has dropped below the functional range and the person is numbed, collapsed, disconnected, and unable to access their emotional and cognitive capacity. Both zones represent states outside the window, states in which optimal functioning is not available. The window is not a fixed, permanent structure. It is dynamic. It expands and contracts in response to conditions, circumstances, and history. A well-slept, adequately resourced person with a history of secure attachment and manageable stress has a wide window. A sleep-deprived, chronically stressed, trauma history-carrying person may have a window so narrow that ordinary daily interactions can tip them outside it. And critically, the window can be widened through specific practices, through healing relationships, through trauma treatment, through the accumulation of corrective experiences that teach the nervous system that the world is more manageable than it has previously been forced to conclude. The window is not destiny. It is a current condition that can change. Section 2. The neuroscience. What's happening in the brain? The window of tolerance is not only a clinical metaphor, it maps directly onto the neurobiology of the autonomic nervous system and the brain's threat response architecture. Understanding the neuroscience grounds the framework in something more than a useful image. The brain operates, in simplified terms, through two primary processing systems that are in constant relationship. The first is the subcortical system, the brainstem, limbic system, and amygdala, which is responsible for survival processing, threat detection, emotional activation, the mobilization of the stress response, and the rapid, automatic behaviors that keep the organism alive. This system is fast, involuntary, and prioritizes survival over nuance. It does not think. It reacts. The second is the cortical system, particularly the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for higher-order cognitive functions: reasoning, perspective-taking, planning, language, the regulation of emotional responses, and the reflective self-awareness that allows a person to observe their own experience without being entirely commanded by it. This system is slower, more deliberate, and capable of the nuanced, flexible, relationship-oriented functioning that defines optimal human experience. Inside the window of tolerance, both systems are operating in an integrated way. The subcortical system is providing the emotional activation and the energy that motivates engagement, and the cortical system is providing the regulation, reflection, and direction that makes that energy productive rather than chaotic. The person can feel and think at the same time. They have access to both their emotional experience and their capacity to respond to it thoughtfully. Outside the window, in either direction, this integration breaks down. In hyperarousal, the subcortical threat response has activated to a degree that overwhelms the cortical system's regulatory capacity. The amygdala has essentially hijacked the prefrontal cortex, a process that neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux describes as the amygdala's fast pathway, bypassing the slower cortical pathway entirely. In this state, the person is not making thoughtful choices. They are reacting from the subcortical survival system with all the accuracy and proportionality that entails. In hypoarousal, the nervous system has moved in the opposite direction, into the dorsal vagal shutdown state that Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory describes as the most evolutionarily ancient response to inescapable threat. The system has essentially powered down. Heart rate slows, metabolism drops, emotional access is blocked, and the person enters a state of disconnected, numbed flatness that is the nervous system's emergency response to overwhelm it has determined cannot be escaped. The window of tolerance, neurobiologically, is the range of arousal within which the cortical-subcortical integration is maintained. Above it, the cortex has been overridden. Below it, the cortex and the emotional system have both gone offline. The therapeutic and regulatory work is the work of maintaining and gradually expanding the range within which integration is possible. Section 3. Hyperarousal. Above the window. Hyperarousal is the state most people recognize as dysregulation, the flooded, overwhelmed, reactive end of the spectrum. Understanding its specific features is important because hyperarousal presents in several distinct ways that are not always immediately recognizable as the same underlying state. The most visible presentation is the fight response. Anger, rage, aggression, the explosive reaction to a trigger that seems disproportionate to the provoking event. The nervous system has mobilized for conflict, and the person may find themselves saying things, doing things, or feeling things at an intensity that is genuinely surprising to them once they have returned to the window. This is not a character flaw. It is the subcortical system running the threat response with the cortex offline. The flight response presents as panic, anxiety, the urgent need to escape, physically or psychologically, from the triggering situation. Racing thoughts, hyperventilation, the physical urgency of the anxiety response. This can look like avoidance, like fleeing, or like the compulsive busyness that keeps the person moving fast enough that the emotional activation cannot catch them. Hyperarousal also presents less dramatically as hypervigilance. The chronic, low-grade scanning of the environment for threat that keeps the nervous system in a sustained state of elevated activation, even in the absence of an acute trigger. The person who cannot fully relax, who reads every room for danger, who startles easily, who finds it impossible to genuinely rest, is experiencing hyperarousal that has become a baseline state rather than an acute response. In all hyperarousal presentations, the defining features are the same: emotional flooding, reduced access to cortical reasoning and perspective, disproportionate responses to stimuli, difficulty returning to calm, and the somatic signatures of sympathetic nervous system activation: elevated heart rate, rapid breathing, muscle tension, the physical experience of the stress response running at high volume. Section 4. Hypoarousal. Below the window. Hypoarousal is the less recognized and often more misunderstood zone outside the window, in part because it looks, from the outside, like calm. The person is not visibly reactive. They are not explosively emotional. They may appear passive, disengaged, or simply quiet. And yet, they are as outside the window as their hyperaroused counterpart, as far from optimal functioning, as unavailable for genuine connection and effective action, just in the opposite direction. Hypoarousal presents as emotional numbness, the flat, empty, unreachable quality that trauma survivors sometimes describe as feeling nothing or as watching their own life from a distance. It presents as profound fatigue, the bone-level exhaustion that is not resolved by sleep, and that is distinct from ordinary tiredness in its depth and its resistance to ordinary restoration. It presents as dissociation, the disconnection from the body, from the present moment, from the sense of continuous self that is usually taken for granted. And it presents as the inability to act, the paralysis that is not laziness or avoidance, but the nervous system in the dorsal vagal shutdown that represents the most ancient response to inescapable threat. The hypoarousal zone is frequently misinterpreted by the person themselves and by others as depression, as apathy, as passivity, or as a character limitation. It is none of these things. It is the nervous system in its emergency conservation mode, a mode that evolved because when nothing can be done and threat is inescapable, the most adaptive response is to shut down metabolic function, go flat, and wait. The system that is in hypoarousal is not being lazy. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do in the conditions it has assessed to be present. The clinical and practical implication of hypoarousal is that the interventions appropriate for hyperarousal are contraindicated for hypoarousal, and vice versa. Bringing calm to a flooded system is appropriate when the person is above the window. Bringing calm to a collapsed system is not, because the collapsed system needs gentle upregulation, not further dampening. Movement, warmth, gentle stimulation, relational contact, anything that activates without overwhelming. These are what the hypoarousal state needs to begin moving back toward the window. Section 5. How trauma narrows the window. One of the most clinically important features of the window of tolerance framework is what it reveals about the specific mechanism by which trauma does its damage. Not as a moral or characterological injury, but as a neurobiological one that has a precise and understandable effect on the window's dimensions. Trauma, particularly chronic and developmental trauma, narrows the window through two primary mechanisms. The first is sensitization of the threat detection system. The amygdala, which is responsible for identifying potential threats and initiating the stress response, is an experience-dependent organ. It learns from the experiences it encounters, and it adjusts its threat threshold accordingly. A nervous system that has been repeatedly exposed to unpredictable threat, particularly early in development when the window is being established, learns to treat a wider and wider range of stimuli as potentially threatening. The threshold for triggering the stress response drops. The range of stimuli that can activate it expands, and the result is a window whose boundaries are closer together, because the hyperarousal zone is more easily and more quickly reached. The second mechanism is the depletion of co-regulatory resources. In optimal development, the window is established and maintained through the experience of co-regulation, the child's nervous system synchronizing with the regulated nervous system of a caregiver, learning through repeated experience what regulated states feel like and how to return to them. When early caregiving is itself dysregulated, absent or frightening, the child does not receive the consistent co-regulatory input that builds broad windows. They develop a narrower window, less robust return to baseline capacity, and greater sensitivity to triggers, not because of any inherent deficiency, but because the developmental environment did not provide what was needed for the window to expand. The result, in adult life, is the pattern that so many trauma survivors describe. The experience of being easily triggered, of reactions that feel disproportionate to what is objectively happening, of difficulty returning to calm after activation, of exhaustion from the effort of maintaining function within a window that is genuinely narrow. This is not weakness. This is the entirely predictable consequence of a nervous system that was shaped by an environment that asked too much of it and provided too little of what it needed. And, critically, the window that was narrowed by experience can be widened by different experience. The nervous system is plastic. Its current dimensions reflect its history, and history can be added to. Section 6. Widening the window. What actually works. Widening the window of tolerance is not a single intervention. It is a sustained process, the gradual expansion of the range within which the nervous system can remain regulated, through the accumulation of experiences that teach the nervous system that a wider range is manageable. Here is what the research and clinical practice consistently identify as the most effective contributors to that expansion. Co-regulation is the most fundamental window widening mechanism, and it is not only a childhood phenomenon. The nervous system co-regulates across the entire lifespan, and the experience of being in the presence of a calm, attuned other person is neurobiologically effective at expanding the window in real time and, over repeated experience, at gradually shifting its baseline dimensions. This is one of the most important reasons that therapeutic relationships heal. The consistent, regulated presence of an attuned therapist is not merely the context for the clinical work. It is itself a window-widening experience, repeated across weeks and months and years until the nervous system has enough evidence of safety to expand what it considers manageable. Titrated exposure to challenging material, the deliberate, graduated engagement with activating material while remaining within or just at the edge of the window, is the mechanism of change in most evidence-based trauma treatments. EMDR, somatic experiencing, and sensorimotor psychotherapy all work, in part, by helping the person pendulate, move toward the difficult material, touch it, and return to regulated baseline, then approach it again, slightly further, return, approach again. Each cycle that is completed without the system being overwhelmed adds to the evidence that the difficult material is survivable, gradually pushing the window's upper boundary outward. Somatic and body-based practices are among the most direct window-widening tools available, because the window is a body phenomenon, not primarily a cognitive one, and the most direct access to it is through the body. Yoga, mindful movement, breathwork, progressive muscle relaxation, and any other practice that builds the person's capacity to be present in their body while tolerating the sensations that arise. All of these directly train the nervous system to remain within the window under conditions of increasing activation. They build the physiological tolerance that is the window's substrate. Mindfulness practice, specifically the development of the observing self, the capacity to notice experience without being entirely consumed by it, is one of the most well-researched window-widening interventions available. The mindful person who can observe their own emotional activation with curiosity rather than alarm has developed exactly the dual awareness that being inside the window enables. The capacity to feel something difficult, while also knowing I am having this experience, rather than being commandeered by it. Each meditation session that practices this observation, however imperfectly, is training the cortical regulatory system that the window's maintenance depends on. Sleep, nutrition, and the reduction of chronic stress load, addressed extensively in other videos in this series, are the conditions under which all of the above practices are most effective. The window is a biological structure and it responds to biological conditions. A chronically sleep-deprived, inadequately nourished, chronically stressed nervous system is one whose window is under constant pressure from below, regardless of what therapeutic interventions are being applied. Stabilizing the biological foundation is not preparation for the real work. It is part of the real work. The window of tolerance worksheet in the description maps the 3 zones, the specific signs of hyperarousal and hypoarousal in your own experience, and the regulation tools that are most effective for moving from each zone back toward the window, organized for personal use and for therapists using this psychoeducation with clients. The window of tolerance is not a judgment about who you are or how strong you are. It is a measurement, a description of the current dimensions of your nervous system's capacity to remain regulated under conditions of activation. Nothing more and nothing less. A narrow window is not a character flaw. It is the nervous system's honest record of what it has been through. And a wide window is not evidence of superior strength. It is the nervous system's record of the safety, attunement, and regulatory support it has received, and the practices and experiences that have gradually expanded what it can hold. The window can widen. For virtually everyone, regardless of history, regardless of how narrow the current dimensions are, regardless of how long the narrowness has been the normal. The nervous system is plastic. It learns from new experience with the same faithfulness with which it learned from the old. And the accumulation of experiences in the body, in relationship, in the therapeutic room, in the steady practice of returning to yourself, that teach the nervous system that a wider range is safe, is the work of a lifetime that is available right now from wherever you currently are. The worksheet is in the description. Share this video with someone who has been wondering why they respond the way they do and who deserves
the framework that explains it without pathologizing it. And I will see you in the next one.